Good night, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome again to the EB Show. As you know, the EB Show is hosted each week, every Thursday between 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. right here on i95.5. I am your host, Ramkumar Narinesingh.
And I'm Umar, Abdullah.
And we are here again hosting this media platform, which is here to provide you with information related to matters of your social interests. In tonight's program, we have with us world-renowned guest. It's Professor Dr. Peter Baofu. You want to say good night, Doctor?
Yeah, good evening.
The Professor Doctor, he's world-renowned. He has a number of accolades to his name. Umar, you want to share with us tonight?
Yes, this guest that we have here tonight, he's a world-renowned American author and visionary. He has written over 160 books. He speaks about 10 languages. He had visited over 110 countries. He has a U.S. Fulbright. He is a U.S. Fulbright scholar in China. He has taught as a professor in a number of universities in Western Europe, the Caucasus, the Middle East, South Asia, North America, and South Asia. So, this is just scratching the surface as regards to the profile of this individual. And we thought it best to bring him in here tonight to discuss some matters that is affecting us here nationally. Professor Peter Baofu. Now, not a lot of people you find you hear with that handle to their name, Doctor, Professor. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself first? And after that, I want you to, delve into this conversation by giving us some insight of your travels overseas in other countries, and similar things that would have happened in those countries, and how that would have affected sociologically affected those people in those countries, and how you think we could perhaps apply some of those management styles that those countries adopted, and even the citizens themselves.
Okay, so let me just thank you for the invitation for this wonderful topic. To respond to your first question, I have traveled all over the world because I have been in more than 110 countries. And the reason I do that is because I want to understand humanity on the ground, not just by reading a book or watching a TV documentary. That is not going to be very useful. And I have proposed more than 128 different visions and theories about the human future in all fields of knowledge in my 160 books so far. And the reason for that is because I want to propose some solutions and problems to a lot of problems that I have encountered all over the world. And the one that you just mentioned is a good example of the question that I have heard in many countries. So that's my first answer to your first question. Now go to the second question, is what do I think about the problem that you are raising? As a start, I'm not a member of any political party, which means that whatever I say is more or less non-partisan. I'm not for the left, I'm not for the right, I'm not for the communists, I'm not for the capitalists. So in whatever sense that you want to put me into, I will just give you some analysis of the problem. I think that the question that you just raised about some people losing their jobs, first of all, losing a job is not something which is very good for a lot of people, especially those who are poor. I understand that. But I want to make a distinction between something which is positive as opposed to something which is normative. A positive analysis is to understand the problem in terms of the facts, but without imposing any value judgments. But a normative analysis is one in which you answer an economic question, but you impose your value judgments in order to answer the question, what should you do? So when you ask the question, what should people do? Now that is a value judgment question. There's no longer an economic question which is neutral. Why? Because how you're going to answer the question from the standpoint of a person who loses their properties or their jobs, whatever that might be.
Right.
That is a value judgment. Now, in value analysis, you have different ideologies. You have those who are leftist ideology, and then you have those who which are rightist ideologies. Those who work for the labor union tend to advocate a much more leftist, liberal viewpoint to resolve the problem.
Right.
Those who are on the right, on the other hand, they will propose more a laissez-faire conception of resolving the problem. So when you ask the question, what should people do? How do they find a job? How can they improve the living standard and all that? Well, that is a value judgment. It depends on what kind of ideology that you have in mind. If you choose one ideology, you answer the question in one way. You ask Trump, for example, in the US, he will give you a very conservative answer to the question. In fact, in the US nowadays, we say some of the same problems. And Trump, of course, blames this problem on the Chinese. So in some other countries, they blame it on others, protectionism, for example. So it depends on your ideology again. But if you are on the left, on the other hand, then you will say that no, that's not a good thing to do, and maybe the businesses and the individuals and the government can do something together to resolve this problem so that people can find a job and all that.
What I think we need to do, Mr. Narinesingh, is get some of those guys on this program,
Yeah,
trade
of
union
course.
leaders, the politicians, and let's really have an open door conversation, open policy conversation on this program, and let's take this idea forward and let's see how best we can effect or influence that change that we want.
All right, listeners, we want to thank you all for tuning in here tonight with us. As you know, this conversation continues next week, Thursday.